Welcome 2023 and welcome to you all, my dear friends and colleagues from the insurance industry. My name is Ariel Rivera and I am your host of Fun Insurance Solutions. Today we have a wonderful episode. We're starting 2023 with a bang, and we have with us the great Rob Lopez from VIVA Virtual Assistant. Rob is the CEO of VIVA Virtual Assistant, one of our sponsors. Thank you, Rob, and VIVA for our partnership. And Rob is going to talk to us about how do we use virtual assistants to take our agencies and our business to the next level. So make sure you bring out your pen and paper because this is going to be a great one. Let's have some fun. Good morning, my dear friends and colleagues from the insurance industry. My name is Ariel Rivera, and I am your host of Fun Insurance Solutions. Today, we have a wonderful episode with a great friend, a great colleague, and more importantly, a sponsor of our program, the guy who believed in us from the get-go, and he's been backing us up for a while now. And I'm super, super happy that I finally get to have a podcast episode with him because this guy is not only the owner, the CEO of VIVA Virtual Assistant, which is a professional remote workers company that specializes in the insurance industry. He's also an agency owner himself. He owns Infinity Insurance in Houston, Texas. So he knows the struggle of owning an insurance agency. He knows everything that needs to be brought to the table to make an agency very profitable and just keep growing. And as you guys know, at Fun Insurance Solutions, all we want to do is help you take your career and your agency to the next level. Without further introduction, because you're going to hear all about him, please welcome my good friend, Mr. Rob Lopez. What's up, Rob?
Hey, what's going on, Ariel? Thank you so much for having me. I've been a big fan of this podcast for a very long time and love listening in on just about every episode, even the ones that aren't in English. I love to kind of practice my Spanish by listening to it and going, yeah, I think I know what's going on. It's a pleasure to finally be here speaking with you and speaking with your audience today.
That's awesome. I'm honored to have it. But yeah, it's by the way, everybody who's going to be able to see us when we do the short clips of the episode, we're rocking the Viva swag today.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's a fun one. So listen, Rob, let me tell you, I like to start a podcast by always asking this question. So I know you were in El Salvador last week, but you had a beautiful week. It was wonderful. You want to sit down with your wife and you want to celebrate all those big wins. What is your drink of choice, my friend?
Well, yeah. So, yes, I just flew in late last night from El Salvador. We had our end of year planning meeting. 2023 is going to be incredible. But I got to be honest with you. My favorite drink is probably something that's not that impressive for most people. So if we're just hanging out celebrating at lunch or something after a meeting, I just want a traditional michelada with an El Salvadorian beer, either a Pilsner or a Golden or the one that everybody loves, but it's hard to find, Regia. So that's my favorite. I had a bunch of that within the past week, and so that's been wonderful. It's time to go on detox. But my favorite is when we're having dinner, when I'm meeting with my operations team. We go out to a nice dinner, and at the end of the meal, I was turned on to this when we opened up our Mexico City operation a few months back, but a carajillo, which is like an espresso kind of base, sweet ice drink, at the end of the meal. For some reason, there's just something about having a great meal, great conversation and company, and just ending the night with a nice kind of, coffee drink with liqueur in it. So that's probably my answer there. So
that's amazing. I never tried that. I never even heard of caramillo or
carajillo. So the liqueur is, I think it's just simply called 43.
Okay.
I believe it's a coffee liqueur, and they brew fresh espresso, pour it over ice with the coffee liqueur, and then it's got a little bit of a creamy kind of top, and it's incredible. But it's the perfect kind of nightcap and the perfect kind of exclamation point at the end of a really good day, a really good meeting, and so I think that's the one that I'm going to go with right now because I drank a bunch of those as well this past week. So, yeah.
Well, cheers to you, man. Listen, you have,
absolutely cheers.
You're doing something very different in the insurance industry. You're doing something very special at the same time, and you're providing solutions. And that's what I always, love to share. So, and I want to hear all about Viva. But before we get there, I want you to share a little bit of your story. In Spanish, we call it let's open El Baúl de los Recuerdos, which baúl is the trunk of your car. So we're going to open
Yeah.
the trunk of your car and you're going to tell us all about who's Rob Lopez. How did you become, a successful agency owner and now a successful virtual assistant and professional remote workers CEO and founder?
Awesome. Yeah, well, I tell you what, the more of these white hairs that you see here on my face as they come, the longer my story gets. But let me just kind of try to give you a 2 to 3 minute kind of recap. I started as a captive agent, like many of us did. I think, one of the benefits that brought me is just really solid training. I was an exclusive agent with Allstate. Both of my parents had worked for Allstate. My father, was at the end of his career the national catastrophe team manager for Allstate, and so he was the one. Anytime Allstate, well, a storm would be blowing into Florida, the Carolinas, Texas, you name it, that would be sending kind of their mobile response units and making sure that checks were written and that Allstate was living up to what they said they were all about. So he was with the company for 42 years. My mom was with Allstate for a total of, I think it was 32 years. She did anything
Wow.
from underwriting manager to frankly working as the very first employee in my Allstate agency when I opened up, and I want to say that was 2003. So it's been a long time for me, but definitely a long journey for my parents. My older brother also was a exclusive agent with Allstate, and right around, I think it was 2006, 2007, we had Hurricane Rita, Wilma, and I want to say there was one other one that I can't think of off the top of my head, but we'd had three hurricanes come into Texas and in Louisiana in a very short amount of time, and it completely devastated our property market. And I had built my entire business kind of modeling what my brother was having success with at Allstate, which was building referral relationships with realtors and mortgage professionals. And so for the property market to completely go away, and this constant promise of, hey, don't worry about it, we're going to bring on some additional markets, just stay the course, start trying to sell anything and everything else, in the meantime, just to keep your head afloat. It was that feeling of kind of helplessness that made me go, I don't know if the captive world is for me. And so as soon as I had the opportunity, I went ahead and sold my agency, my Allstate agency, and I used that equity to buy a independent agency, and the rest is history. I tell people I didn't start here, but once I joined the independent side, I knew I would never leave. And so that's kind of how I got started within the independent side of the business. Then I started to get into building an agency aggregator with Integra Financial Group based here out of Texas. I took them from just a GA with no distribution model to I think we had about 153 locations, and we were in 7 states when I left. After that, I went ahead and helped create the Greenway Agency Network here in Houston. And then from there, I became the national franchise or president of franchises for a franchise operation called Sun Up Insurance. It was around that time that I realized that, hey, I like all the success that I'm having recruiting, training, onboarding, and managing multiple agents and making a small piece off of that. But I didn't have any equity in any of that. So I made that huge leap that only a really great wife and a supportive wife, would entrust somebody to make. And I said, I'm going to go kind of going to make something for myself. And that's when I started the brokerage and Xfinity Insurance here in Houston. And at that time, I had really not thought ahead. This was a very impulsive decision. Some might say, or my wife may say, depending on the day of the month, that, I was maybe a selfish or an ego-driven move, but I believed in myself. She believed in me enough to say, yeah, let's go do it. And I went ahead and built that brokerage. As I was going, or I should say growing that agency, I realized that I needed some help. And I had always known in the time that I had built the other distribution channels, the aggregators and things that I had led before, I had always used virtual assistants. And I've used virtual assistants from just about any company that everybody would, from Marble Box was where I first got my start, to realizing that there was a little bit of a language barrier, but that's on me, not on them. They're hard workers and things like that. To using the WAVE program, right? That work at home veteran employees that are all US based, but they're retirees. And I started to feel that, yes, I got some great experience out of that, but I was not their priority. This was very much a moonlighting opportunity for them, or maybe a gig, before the gig economy kind of happened. And I didn't like that I was paying a premium and I was not a priority, right? Mm-hmm. And so I used several other services, along the way. And, it was at that point that I realized, hey, I've worked with people in India, I've worked with people in Pakistan, I've worked with people in the Philippines. And the one thing that consistently did not like about that was around the time that it's kind of lunchtime or after, when it's time to, hey, we only have a few more hours to get some stuff done before, we're not going to be able to get a hold of people. I would have a lag time in the response time that I was getting for my virtual agents or
Mm,
virtual assistants, that we were getting back. And I didn't like that. And it took me a while to figure it out because I'm not the smartest guy in the world. But I finally started to look at a clock and I'm like, look, they're 14 to 15 hours ahead of me. So right now we're filming this at 10:46 a.m. Central Time. So,
yep.
you add 14 hours to that, it's almost 3 o'clock in the morning for many of these service providers. And I'm not saying that you can't get great work when somebody's working the graveyard shift, but eventually life is going to catch up to them. They will not be able to respond as quickly. They have a sick kid or something like that at home, and they need to kind of take some time. And so now they're working not at 100%. It was just something that I started to notice that there was a major productivity deficiency that happened in the second half of the day. And so I kind of looked at a map and said, let's look straight down from Texas. I wonder how many great people I can get in Mexico. And I found some really good people, but it was in that time that I found a young guy who was looking to plant a church in San Salvador, El Salvador. And that's something that's, very near and dear to my family and I. We're very much into going on missions and trying to kind of show our kids, we have 3 young boys, just a great example, right? Because I can't control who they become, but I can at least show them while they're in my stewardship, kind of the right way to give back and
Oh, a hundred
to do
percent.
unto others.
100%.
And so I met this young kid and I'm like, man, I'd love to help you start this church. Where is this place? San Salvador? Never heard of it. Right. And then he starts to explain to me how there in El Salvador, the US dollar is a primary currency and the English languages are a primary language, and how, business friendly it was. And so I said, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. Let's see what we can do. Hired him, hired his wife, then hired him. Then eventually I said, can you find me 4 more people? Because I really wanted to kind of throw, gasoline on the fire that I built within my agency and take it to a new level. And it was at that time that my carrier reps started to show a little bit of notice or take notice of some of the growth. And at the time that the pandemic is starting, how is it that every other one of our agencies quote volume is going down, but you guys are picking it up? And I'm like, well, I'm just using the leverage that comes with hiring people from overseas for less money. So when my carrier reps took notice and I would explain to them what I was doing, they started to share the word with other agents. Hey, why don't you call Rob? He's got this cool program. Maybe he can help you. And the next thing I knew, I looked up and I had about a dozen clients, agency clients, that I was just kind of doing just to help people out. Back then, I wasn't charging nearly enough money to help all these people out. But I realized, oh my goodness, I have a business. I guess I should give it a name and start to market this deal, because people were coming to me. They were, being referred to me. We didn't have a website, to show them anything from. And it's because this was never something that I set out to do. It's just something that
Wow,
I
it
truly believe is
happened.
a blessing that happened to me. And I'm just very grateful that it did, because we've helped a ton of people, and not just insurance agents, but we've got about 300 families that we've affected, by being able to offer a high paying job in Central America and stuff. And so it's been a huge blessing, and I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity.
Wow, wow, that's impressive, man. I never knew it just happened. It's just something, you put your heart into it, and you were doing a good deed, and out of that good deed, you built a very, very successful, impressive company. So I had no idea that's how it started, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's something that, this past week we celebrated. We had a little holiday party there, and I'll have to send it to you. There's this great video that my team put together, and I was like, wait, that was you guys this morning. So you recorded some of these scenes this morning, and they just very quickly packaged it, because we had a big holiday dinner, there with the El Salvador team. And as it's playing, I'm watching this kind of in awe, and it's this really surreal moment, but I kind of start to get choked up, because they were showing all the community give back,
Wow.
initiatives that we're doing, all these other kind of things. And then I started to see not only how many people were in this room, which shocked me, but just the impact that we were making, not only in the workers' lives, but in the local communities that our people live and work in. And for me, that was this kind of light bulb moment or aha moment, when I'm like, oh my God, this is not just about me anymore. This is blown up into something that's really making an impact, not only within the industries that we serve, but those countries and communities that our people live and work in. So that was a wonderful experience. So when my wife shows up on Thursday for us to kind of celebrate after the meetings were over, I mean, I think I hit her, dead on with, you're not going to believe what I just figured out. And it was a
Wow.
great moment to share because she was the one that said, "Hey, I believe in you, let's go do this." And to be able to look back now 3+ years later and to see that impact, it's crazy. When you're so close to something, sometimes you don't see it. But this week, I finally had the time to take a step back and look at everything that we put together, and it was a moving experience for sure.
Oh, it's
So,
impressive. I'm an emotional guy, so probably would have cried there. Just because
yeah.
that's just how I am. But listen, it's impressive. What's most impressive is the support from your wife, and that's amazing.
Mhm.
I have the exact same support, and that's one thing I tell everyone. You want to go at it alone, it's okay, you can do it. But if you want to
Right.
go further, you go together. You go together, and
100%.
it makes such a huge difference. And I know you have your three beautiful boys. You never had a girl, right?
Yes. We tried 3 times and it didn't work. And so
Oh,
I'm like,
okay.
hey, if we try again, I'm going to get another boy in. So I think we're good. And we were already outnumbered. So
Okay,
yeah,
okay, there you go. But anyways, God bless your three beautiful boys and your wife, and it's an amazing story. You have built something very special for the insurance industry, but more importantly, for the people in El Salvador, which are making good money and all that.
absolutely.
So let's dig in and let's just break down the barriers of a remote professional worker and explain people, because to me, I understood this actually when I had my first one back where Hurricane Maria happened. And I tell everyone, this is not substituting nobody at your office. No, 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 no. This is helping you grow. This is something you do to help your agency grow, to help your business grow, your company grow. More importantly, this will help you hire more account executives, more producers, more people to service your clients and your communities. But more importantly, it will help you take your agency to the next level, which is what we're all looking for. So let's break
Absolutely.
down a little bit the barriers of how should people see it? How do you guys work? The mechanics of it. How do you connect with each other and things like that?
Okay. So there's a lot there. And let me see if I can kind of unpeel it layer by layer and answer the question the right way. So the first thing, I think the first major barrier that some people have is they immediately go, Philippines, for most of my competitors, or, in this case, El Salvador or Mexico City, they must not be as advanced as we are. So that automatically means there's going to be client data loss. There's going to be cyber liability issues and different things like that, right? That's the big thing that people have to get used to. What I would say is this, and even before that, let me go back as far as the first few clients that say, "Hey, you're an insurance agent too. What's to keep you from using all of my trade secrets for your benefit?" And let me just start there, and then we can kind of go through the other layers. So the first thing that I told people is still true today. First of all, we don't micromanage our people. What we look for are they taking advantage of their idle times, right? Like if they take a break, instead of it being a 15-minute break, are they coming back 23 minutes later? I want to make sure that the work that you're paying for is work that you're receiving. So we do look at things like idle time, lunch breaks and things like that to make sure that they're still working the amount of hours that somebody's paying for, right? The second thing that we do is we do actually have a software system that actually tracks all of the tasks that are being done. And it frankly starts to take counts. This many emails have been sent, this many calls have been taken, different things like that, just so we can get a baseline productivity score that we can manage the rest of our teams in similar peer groups or similar agency types. And that helps us give reports to our clients that say your VA is working at 91% on versus their peers and stuff like that. And so that's a good thing. And now if they want specifics, our IT department and our quality assurance department can actually run reports, show not only screenshots, but show them exactly what we've been able to do. Because at the end of the day, the number one issue that I have as an agent is if I pay somebody money, are they going to protect my data? Are they going to be able to tell me how much value they brought to me? Because I'm not going to always see it right at the
Yeah,
gate. And so
the
we
return on
try to make
investment
that
is
easy
huge.
for people to see that return on investment, definitely. Really, the other issue that people have is, well, and this has been a big thing that many of my competitors are also facing now, is most of us really kind of caught fire once the pandemic started, right? VAs have been around for a while, and from long before the pandemic happened. But at least within the insurance industry, I think you know and you've heard there seemingly is 20 now VA companies that have all popped up within the past 12 months, right? And so during the time of the pandemic, which it kind of normalized people working remotely, you start to see all these upstart companies kind of pop up because it's been normalized. And what I will say to this is, I truly believe with our virtual assistants, and that doesn't mean you can't get wonderful virtual assistants, at many of my competitors, all of the owners who I'm very friendly with. But I truly believe that the Latin American accent is more neutral and more widely accepted
Mhm.
here in the United States than a Asian Pacific accent is. Unfortunately, all of the big companies that we use, like cable companies and different service providers out there, have been outsourcing to Asian Pacific countries for a while. So when you hear that accent, you immediately know I've been sent off somewhere else.
No.
That is not as well, the Central American population kind of doing that call center type work has not been around as long, and so because of that, I think it's a little bit more widely accepted, or at least that's what my clients say, right?
Yep.
Not to start a debate, but that is another thing that's really been a big competitive advantage to us. Really, as I told you towards the beginning of this episode, is when I first started to look at trying to find help for myself, because I didn't like how long it took to get responses in the latter parts of the day with other providers that I had been using. I just looked down the map and said, "Hey, I wonder what I can get here." Ariel, this is probably where people laugh, but I didn't even take into consideration that they spoke beautiful Spanish. I just knew
Okay.
that they were very Americanized and the English would be good. That's really all that I cared about. What I didn't realize that I had stumbled upon is a huge need of support, bilingual support at that,
Oh yeah.
that the insurance population would really kind of, adapt to. And now I take a little bit of pride in seeing that, my competitors, agency, VA, cover desk, many of these great companies, they're all opening up operations in Central and South America because they've seen, what we were able to kind of see, and that's still been a huge, reason why we've had the success that we've had over the past few
Oh,
years.
when you think about all the agencies in Texas, Puerto Rico, California, Florida,
Right.
there's thousands of independent agencies
Absolutely.
that are bilingual, that they need the Spanish speaking, because Puerto Rico Spanish is the primary language as well. So
Right.
they need that Spanish speaking. But the same thing happens if you go to Southeast Florida. Almost
Right.
everybody speaks Spanish as their main language. So it's funny. I
Absolutely.
go to Miami or somewhere else, and I never speak a word of English. It's just
Exactly.
and you
Exactly.
think like you're somewhere else, not actually in the mainland. It's just that's the way culturally it's now. So having that
100%.
advantage of having bilingual virtual assistant or professional remote workers makes a huge difference.
Right. Let me just add one more layer to that question that you asked. And so we used to have some concern and some pushback that came in the form of carriers, right? So agencies would hire a virtual assistant. They would kind of let their carrier reps know what's going on. The carrier rep didn't really understand it, so they'd take it up the chain of command, if you will, at the carrier level, and immediately everybody wanted to stop it because they didn't understand it. So we've been lucky that we've been around, long enough to where we've had some of these, let's call them carrier challenges, right? Which
Mhm.
they will come and they will say, look, we want to meet with your legal team. We want to meet with, we want to meet with your E&O kind of provider to make sure that you're protecting us the way that we need to. But we also want to kind of analyze exactly what you say you are warranting and what you're not, within your contract. And so we've had many of these challenges. We've had many of these conversations that frankly have helped us become a better organization. But the one thing that we were able to show many of these carriers when we did have some of these challenges is, think of it this way. You are out there looking and meeting individually with mom and pop agency owners, trying to find a good partnership that's going to help you meet your goals and write the type of business that you want to have written. But how many of those do you do a technology audit to figure out how are you making sure that your people are not going to steal data and different things like that? And when we ask that question, they're like, well, we don't really do that. And then saying how many of these agency groups that you do not only go out and buy cyber liability and cyber crime policies and things like that to protect and warranty the work that they're doing while they're in your systems, but take it a step further and have do things like penetration testing, every 3 to 6 months to make sure that we are always improving our performance and our cybersecurity within the deal. And they say, well, none of them are doing that. We do that as carriers, but we don't ask our people that we give credentials to log in directly to our systems, to do that. And so I'm saying, you guys should see the value that if we can partner with the agency as that kind of common denominator, with agencies and with you as a carrier, know that we're doing SOC 2 Type 1 and Type 2 compliance. We are on our way to reaching our international standard, ISO 27001 standard, to where we are making sure that we are protecting as much as we possibly can.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Every keystroke, every function and task that's being completed, because we want to remain around as a viable option for the insurance industry. And if we make a mistake, we could ruin it for the whole, virtual assistant kind of industry. And so it is something that we, live and sleep on, and we're stressed about all the time. And that's one of the reasons that rarely do you see people do this, but I've got to say, I have built some of the best relationships in this industry since I became a virtual assistant, kind of agency owner. And I have partnered with people like Wesley Anderson, at Agency VA, and the guys at InsBoss and Resource Pro, one of the largest providers to insurance carriers out there. And we network on a regular basis because we all have the same issues. We don't want to mess it up for the next one. And we want to make sure that we will be a viable, a service provider for this industry for a long time to come. And so it's amazing, the camaraderie and basically the ideas that come from a group of people that are all pushing in the same direction. It's kind of what I would give credit to, like sort of the IAOA, but for VA owners, right? And so we had a VA summit this past February in Salt Lake City, and we're going to be doing one this upcoming, I think it's late February, it might even be March, together as well. And so to get people like myself and the other VA owners in the room together and go, how do we protect our clients? How do we let carriers know that we feel what they feel and we want to improve as a company, and kind of create a global standard for how we can protect data, for our clients? It's very much something that's top of mind for us, and it's something that we work hard to do day in, day out. Now, you compare that with your local mom and pop agency that is already strapped for cash, trying like hell to keep the business that they have on the books because of how crazy insurance has gotten with all these kind of renewal rates and reinsurance costs, going through the roof. We are able to protect them as well at a time that they need to be focused on other things anyway and stuff. And so at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. And it's really some of the things that once an agency gives us an opportunity to have that discussion, they all immediately go, oh my goodness, yeah, this is not nearly the risk that I thought it might be. So
yeah, and it's crazy because carriers use them. If you think about credit card companies, cell phone companies, just like you mentioned, they've been using it for years. So I remember one of the largest cell phone carriers or companies in Puerto Rico, which is Claro. You call their customer service, and Claro, most of their customer service for Puerto Rico, it's in the Dominican Republic. So they set up their own shops, whether it's through an independent agency or firm like yours. And it's been around forever. And again, I tell everyone when they ask me, it's like, what do I do? How do I set it up? And I'm like, they know exactly how to set you up in a way that will position you for success. So that's and I love that you guys are getting together and you guys are protecting the integrity of the virtual assistant companies, because listen, it's here to stay. That's what it is. And like you said, some carriers might fight it. But let's just say in the core of the industry, it's already accepted and it's already understood that it's very valuable for the independent agencies and for the insurance companies as well. So So listen, okay, I never had a virtual assistant in my life. I have no idea what to do. What should I do? I call Viva. I sign up for a demo. I want to, by the way, which I encourage everyone to listening to this, sign up for a demo. It's free. You don't have to pay anything. Learn about it. See how it can help you become more successful. Because one thing that we all have trouble with is always the 100 calls, 200 calls we get a
Absolutely.
day, right? The other
Hmm.
thing is the emails. So we all have so many fires to put out, but some of those fires are simple, basic transactional fires that we can put out. So help me understand. I know nothing how it works. So show me how, I want everybody who's listening, whether they're experts on virtual assistants or not, how it works. How do we set up? What should we do? What should we be looking for? Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it's a great question, and thank you for asking. So, one of the things that I have realized, and I've now done, easily 1,000 presentations over the past 3.5 years to agency owners about, this. And one of the things that I've realized when I've listened to the questions that we've received back and some of those kind of hurdles that an agency needs to mentally kind of overcome in order to feel comfortable, is that there's not a one size fits all. And that's another area where I feel that Viva is different than some of our competitors. They say, you want a VA? This is how much it costs. And now we'll train them. And we've got an academy. Viva has a Viva Academy as well. But you know what? No different than if we were going to hire somebody down the road from you, Ariel, or right here in Texas. And, for me, not everybody has the same background, experience, and capabilities as the next person that you talk to. And so, one of the things that we've done is we've broken down into three different categories. And as far as I know, we're the only VA company right now that's done it this way because we lead on our website vivavs.com with this three category system. The first thing that we need to figure out is what kind of help does the agency need? Right? Do they just need back office help? Now, back office help would not be client facing. That's going to be the next category they're going to go. These are people that, hey, Ariel, I need you to go, I need you to pull this report from the management system so we can kind of make some decisions, or I need you to upload this trailing document to this carrier for me just to make sure that we're compliant and we don't have any no issue. Those are your back office things. And do I just need back office help managing my emails, making sure this is the big one, that data hygiene is accurate? So what is in my carrier data wise is in my AMS, and it's probably even in my CRM for marketing purposes, making sure that that's consistent. That's a great use of a VA, but all of that is behind the scenes, right? It doesn't have to be client facing. I believe that's a great place to start, back office, right? Because one of the biggest mistakes is if you don't really know what kind of help you want, but you just want to put somebody on the phone. Well, I don't know how it was with you, Ariel, when you first got licensed or when you got into the industry, but it literally took me a full year, even as a captive agency owner operator, before it clicked for me. And I'm going,
Oh yeah.
oh, I completely get what this means. And now I know what I'm saying, right?
Oh yeah.
It was one thing to know what to say, it was another thing to understand what we were saying, right? And so when you take somebody in and you expect that within the first 30 days they're going to automatically understand, that's unreasonable. And I think that anybody that is a reasonable person, if they sit back and they take a look at it, go, yeah, that's probably a little bit too much too soon. So I'm a big believer in, let's make sure that we show you a return on your investment and that we get some quick wins under our belt as we're building a relationship. That's the key to having success with a VA. Build a relationship with a person
Oh yeah.
that is remotely helping you, because if you don't show them that you care about them, you're never going to get the results and that return on investment that you want. So build a relationship, get some quick wins under your belt, right? So let's start somewhere. Let's understand what we need. Now, what I have found is that less than 2% of all of the agencies that we've talked to, most of which have become clients of ours, um, less than 2% have taken the time to document their processes that they expect somebody in a remote situation to do for them. So just think about that. If they're not documenting their processes that they're going to entrust into somebody that is thousands and thousands of miles away, why do you think we have the current situation that we have in this industry, to where we don't know who to hire, and when we do hire, they want too much money and they never work out? So everybody immediately says people don't want to work anymore. But if you think about it, if only less than 2% of the people are taking the time to document their processes up front, it's no wonder that they're running off the other 90 plus percent.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so what you have to understand is, what help do you need? And let's spend at least a couple of days to document in detail what that actually means. So we have a clear understanding and expectation going into this, partnership. what the VA is being meant to do and needs to do when they log in each day, and the output that you're expecting to see back. If you know what you want, that is the number one thing to do. Number two would be, let's document those processes, and let's not build 7 things that you need them to do within the first 30 days. What are the 2 or 3 biggest obstacles that you have in your agency that you feel is just a repetitive task that you can offload to somebody? And let's document those processes. What you may realize is that when you're documenting those processes, oh my gosh, there's a lot to that's a lot to teach somebody within a 30 to 90 day window. So let's simplify 2 or 3 tasks that we can get some wins under our belt. Let's, number 3, build a solid relationship with the person that you have chosen outsource tasks to.
That's
and
so
then
important.
And only then are you going to see success.
Yeah.
So
Thank you so much for breaking it down, because I tell people, you guys do a great job training virtual assistant, and that's kudos to you guys, right? However, your agency still has its own culture, and you have a certain way to write emails, you have a certain way to answer the phone. That those things you got to teach them. You got to learn.
Absolutely.
You got to show. And right now, there's no excuses. Everybody survived. Not everybody, God protect those who lost their life of COVID. I mean, the people who work in the industry that went through COVID was able to survive the Zoom era, right? So now there's no excuse. Oh, how do I connect with them? Do a Zoom meeting, do it weekly, do it daily, do it as many times as you need, which, by the way, Zoom is free. So you're not spending an extra dime on something. You are training that person, because, again, it's already going to come trained on certain tasks, like you mentioned. But more importantly, you're going to be able to show them how do you process things. I use Loom. So Loom is a video platform that you record yourself. And basically, with every carrier, because Florida is just simply nuts. Right now, the market is so hard. With every carrier, anything that changes, I do a Loom video and I share it on our Slack team. And then that's how we keep ourselves updated. So
absolutely,
understanding what you need is always going to be the first step. And thank you for sharing that. But also knowing that you have to embrace your assistant as part of your team, because otherwise, this is not you sending them work and that's it. They have to build. They need to build synergy, with your staff, with your team, or assign them to a person. If you have somebody in the office that needs more help, make sure that person trains them and helps them. If you can't do it yourself, I always recommend agency principals or owners to do the training themselves, because most of the time they're the ones that know exactly what they're needing and how to do it. So you need to embrace it. So thank you for sharing, because that's the best explanation I think I heard ever. Those 3 steps, how to understand that. So
let me just real quickly add the last 2. So know what you need, build a relationship. That's the solid foundation to get going. So remember when I said I think that we're uniquely different, and that we don't think there's a one size fits all. So I said this is a way to have success right out of the gate. And if you do not have documented processes, then one of those 2 or 3 primary functions should be, you need to document these processes for me, right? There's no better use of a VA than to finally bring your agency into that elite 2% that does document their processes and get that done. Because whether you continue to use this or not, your agency will be infinitely more scalable if you take the time to document your processes, right? So I mentioned back office support as step 1 or product number 1 that we offer. The other thing is client facing. Now that I understand a little bit more about the industry, and I've spoken with the agency staff for a few months, and I feel comfortable in this is when we can start teaching them things, starting to give them some experience and understanding. Right. And so that's something else, is that so when we get into what we call client facing or offering the service and support, we want to make sure that they have a little bit of knowledge under their belt. Right. We have agency owners that come from every other VA company, and they're like, oh, well, their training is terrible and this and that and stuff. And what I am able to quickly understand is they didn't document their processes. They were expecting way too much. So again, it's just being realistic right out of the gate. And so I feel like I'm defending all of the other service providers because it means so much to me that virtual assistant companies are around to be able to continue to provide the results and the support, because I truly believe it is the secret to scaling an agency the right way, and also being able to be a profitable agency, right? Because we all spend a lot of money on service and support and go, they're not bringing enough, let's go ahead and quit. And then we start all over again with the training. You don't have to do that when you use a virtual assistant company. So the first thing is back office solutions. The next thing is more client facing support. And then the third thing that is a big mistake that agents make, and so that's why we have our own product, it's an inside sales VA. This is somebody that has experience in sales. We recruit people that have worked in the call center industry and that have been hung up on several times when they're trying to upsell cable packages or doing whatever like that. You have to understand a little bit about overcoming objections. You have to be empathetic in your approach, right? You have to understand what role does the insurance policy play in somebody's, bigger financial package, and how can you actually lead those conversations into something that's a little bit more fruitful for the sales rep to take and turn into an opportunity,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so we believe that there's three distinct packages and programs. So back office support, when there's a little bit more experience, then it's client facing, and then getting into things like calling, lead screening and nurturing, and that inside sales support. If you want to have fewer conversations with more positive outcome, you need to let people develop in those three categories.
That's amazing, man. Thank you so much for breaking it down. And I know you're very passionate. I can see it in your eyes. And plus, I know it about it. So, listen, people want to connect with you. Where should they call? What should they do? I know, in our social media, we always direct them to your pages. Same thing in our email campaigns. Everybody who listens know you've been a partner and supporter of us. And I always say, visit Viva Virtual Assistant, let them know you're part of the fun family. But I want you to let them know, where should they go? What will be the first step to actually start getting a demo or training or interview for a virtual assistant?
Yeah, by far the easiest thing is just to go to our website. Our website is simply Viva, VIVA, and then V for virtual and S for
Solutions.
solutions.com. So VivaVS.com. From there are call to actions everywhere. They all take you to the same place. Book a consultation. It's a 30-minute consultation where we're going to ask you questions about your agency. We're going to say, have you ever worked with a VA company before? Yes or no, right?
Yep.
No doesn't disqualify you. If anything, we welcome you. A yes doesn't disqualify you. We just want to know, okay, well, then if you have you documented your processes? You'll be surprised how many people have worked with a VA company and have never documented their processes. So that's
Wow.
one of the things that we explain to them. Hey, why didn't you document your processes? So what has you leaving that company? That's when we kind of know we don't want to let them duplicate that same mistake that they're trying to leave. And we will explain to them how important it is to document their processes. And then we start to ask them a little bit more about, hey, we believe that there's not a one size fits all. So I'm going to tell you three categories that we have. Which of these categories sounds like it's the most appropriate for your agency needs? And it's okay if you have a need on all three of the categories. We're asking, which one do you want to solve right now? And when we start to lead them down that path or that conversation path, that's when we start to really uncover what's keeping them up at night and what has them reaching out asking for help. And when we know that up front, we can actually provide a solution that we know is going to help them, and we can build a long-standing, partnership that, will eventually, lead to more business down the road. And so that's really what we try to do. So VivaVS.com, you can also call us, right? I'm still a big, maybe it's the old guy in me, but I still like calling people, right? And so our area code is 832-990-VIVA. VIVA is 8482. So area code
Perfect.
832-990 Viva 8482. So anyway, that's how you can reach us. And and please, if you want to, ask them, tell them that you want to speak with me. I'd gladly give the one-on-one consultation, and I can speak to you as an agency owner to another agency owner, and make sure that we find a solution that's going to fit you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you as a friend. I appreciate you as a partner. And, I look forward to seeing Viva just keep growing and growing and helping agencies all across the country and Puerto Rico because, I believe in the virtual assistant model and it's making a difference. It's definitely making a difference, and it's helping even people starting agencies, or whether you're a producer for an agency and you want to go independent yourself and you want to start up. It's helping them build a solid foundation. So thank you for that.
Yeah. We appreciate the partnership. We love everything that you're doing at Fun Insurance Solutions. But the best part is, made. I've always gravitated to people that I know genuinely care about the industry and want to help others, and that's something that I see you working your tail off each and every day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not only do you have the podcast and the agencies and everything else, but what you give back to the industry with everything that you're doing with PIA. I
Mhm.
mean, goodness, I don't know how you have the time. I think I have an idea, and it's because I have met your wife, I have met your family, and I know that very similar to my wife, we we both were blessed with people that support us without question. And that's the only way for us to be able to continue to impact the industry the way you and I both want to, and the people that we serve. So, man, thank you for everything that you're doing. I'm a huge fan, and I really
Thank you.
appreciate the opportunity to get to not only talk to you today, but to talk to your audience for sure.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that because not everybody says those kind words, and not everybody understands or realize how much we give back over time. Because most of the time it's free volunteering time, just to go to Congress, visit, lobby, advocate, do so many things to make sure our doors always stay open. And that's
Yeah,
the whole
man.
thing. The only reason I do it, and I've been doing it since I was 32 years old, it's just I want to make sure we're in this for the long run. So thank you. I truly appreciate your kind words, my friend.
Sounds good, man. Well, listen, we love you over here. If you ever need anything, please let us know. But thank you again. Thank you to your audience.
Likewise.
And here's
Thank
to
you.
2023, man. Let's go crush it together.
Oh, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be such a wonderful year. We're gonna take this thing to the next level. That's what we're all about. Listen, take care, buddy.
Take care.